Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
New on Curiosity Stream. How do you connect a 16th century potato to limitless energy production? Could Napoleon's toothpick have a direct link to a machine that predicts the future? And how can a 1700s conch shell chart a course to humans connecting their brains to the internet? James Burke's visionary series Connections returns for a new generation. Experience all new Connections. With monthly, annual, and bundled plans, find the one that works for you at curiositystream.com.
Stoveleg Media, igniting conversation.
Hi guys, how's it going? You are listening to another episode of I've Been Thinking. I am your host, as always, Elena Grace, and we have a special guest with us today. One of my college classmates. We knew each other. We weren't super close in college, but I have always admired her from afar. Miss Kaitlyn Hill.
Hi, that's so sweet.
I really have. I've always thought that you were like just so adorable, but also so accomplished.
Well, thank you.
You're so welcome.
I also admired you from afar, so.
Thank you. Even when I was a psycho in college.
I never, we weren't even close enough that I knew that you were a psycho, so I wasn't aware.
It was really just the first 3 years.
As far as I knew, you were totally normal.
You knew some of my friends, so that was still probably in question. Oh my gosh. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself for the listeners. Oh, I wanted to, first, I want to tell the listener why I've brought you here. Sure. So, Kay Hill, as I still call her in my head from our transy days, she is an author, and I wanted to bring her to you all on this first of the month. Instead of our normal book or movie of the month episode, because I wanted to switch it up a little bit, give you all something a little different, and make you think about what it's like to be an author and the fact that that is an actually like an attainable career. That is something that you can do. It's not this like dreamy, like nobody I know is actually an author. That's something other people do. It is a real job, a real career. It is something that is possible to make a living off of, and it's really interesting. So that is why I brought Kaitlyn on the show today.
Yeah. To introduce myself, I am Kaitlyn Hill, and I am an author of young adult fiction. So that's like if you think of like the To All the Boys movies on Netflix, that exact category of book is kind of my thing. Contemporary romance, but for young adults. So like teenagers, and a lot of adults read young adult too, but they're typically about teenagers. And yeah, I live in Kentucky, and I work from home. I have a partner who is now my fiance, and he, I don't know. We just got a house recently. I'm just like rambling about my life now.
No,
But
you're good. You're perfect.
but yeah, I'm excited to be here. Neither of my books are currently out yet, but they are coming. The first one comes next April. It's called Love from Scratch, and by the time this comes out, it'll be up for pre-order. So that'll be an exciting thing. And yeah, the second one is called Not Here to Stay Friends, and it'll come out the following spring. So the timeline of publishing is very long, which I'll probably get to at some point as we talk today. But yeah, the first one comes out in April.
Well, that's another reason I wanted to go ahead and get you on before you were like this super famous author I could never talk to again. So then I would have this to go back and be like, hey, she was on the podcast before
Right,
she
totally.
was like super famous. Come listen, all her fans.
Oh, man.
I mean, you're going to be the next Netflix hit in like 6 years.
We'll
know,
see
the
about
book
that.
comes out and then they have to produce the screenplay.
A
and the
movie that
and
takes a million
everything.
years too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But
No,
for
I
now, I'm
have
very
big
excited to
dreams.
have the book come out.
I'm really excited for you. That's it's really cool. You are a published author.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a really weird and exciting time. And yeah, it's like you were saying, it definitely is something that I always thought of before I really started looking into it as, yeah, just not a like career that you can decide you want to have and go out and get it. And yeah, I would not have expected to be where I am now just like a couple years ago. So it's been really exciting. But yeah, it's, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're fine. I do it all the time.
Cut me later. But yeah, it's something that is very challenging, and like everyone's path to being an author is kind of different. Did you want me to like talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Tell us about your path to become an author.
Yeah. So, yeah, everyone's journey is very different. Like every author of every book you have read has like gone about it in a totally different way and has had like a completely different road of like, yeah, just when they decided they wanted to write and how they got their book deal and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I decided sort of towards the end of college that I was interested in writing. I had sort of gotten back into reading for fun, which was just something that I hadn't done a lot of throughout college while doing everything else and a lot of schoolwork and stuff. So I guess my senior year, I kind of got more into reading for fun again. And the more that I read, kind of, I don't really remember what like genres I was reading in per se, but I was just like reading a lot more and quicker and stuff, and finding like, hey, I used to really love this. Why didn't I do it for so long? And the more I read, the more I started to think about like, I wonder if I could ever write anything like this, which sounds so like silly and naive to just stumble into it that way, but it kind of is how it happened. And so, yeah, which I almost feel bad about when I hear of people who have worked their whole lives and always knew they wanted to be an author. I'm like, oops, I just decided one day, what if I would write? But anyways, it was more challenging from there. But so towards the end of college, I kind of started thinking about it. I took a single creative writing class. I studied sociology, anthropology, and German. And so I did not study anything to do with fiction writing. And so, yeah, I took one fiction class that was mostly focused on the short story, which is a totally different art form than novel writing and is so challenging in different ways. And so it was really cool to get into that and to kind of just like get my first experience with writing things, writing fiction and letting other people read it. In the class, we like traded off our stories and stuff and talked about them out loud and whatever. And it was super intimidating, and I was really bad at writing short stories, but it was fun and really like got my wheels turning, I guess. And so kind of yeah, after that, graduated. The summer after college, I was weirdly sick a lot that year, and so I spent a lot of time um, in my bed at my parents' house in between graduating college and going off to my first job. Um, and yeah, I just had that summer home with a lot of time on my hands. And so I started writing a story that I intended to be book length. I never really got that far with it, but it was the first attempt I made. And I kind of kept playing with that one for the next like year and a half or so, almost 2 years, off and on while doing all kinds of other things. I moved across the country a couple times and
Yeah.
had different weird, unrelated experiences, but it was just kind of in the back of my mind that whole time. And meanwhile, I was reading more and more. So I was reading a lot more YA, young adult, the age range that I write for, and more romances and love stories, even if they weren't categorized as romance, things like that. And just as I read more, I felt like that was kind of teaching me as I went and teaching me what like works in different stories, and what doesn't. And yeah, just kind of reading really widely was super helpful to get more sense of how I would write a story. So then I did National Novel Writing Month, and we're at 2017 by this point. And so National Novel Writing Month is the month of November every year. It's now like a nonprofit organization that runs it, and they encourage anyone who wants to try to write a novel in a month. And it's 50,000 words. And yeah, and you can track your progress on their website. They have like a whole community on there. You can meet people, and they do meetups in person sometimes and stuff like that in different regions. And yeah, I don't know, it's super cool.
No, that's really cool.
But that was the first time that I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and try to do this in a month. 50,000 words, let's go. And so then I finished a manuscript, and it was 50,000 words is not a very, like, it's on the short side for a young adult book especially. So like if I had actually ended up trying to take that anywhere, I would have had to work on it after the month was over and try to make it longer and stuff. But that was kind of just my like, all right, good, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can write something this long. And yeah, so that was the first manuscript that I finished, 2017. And then I kind of quickly, I had this thing early on where like I would get another idea and totally pivot like 4 times before actually committing to something to write. So I kind of quickly pivoted to a different story idea and worked on that and wrote that manuscript, I guess. I don't know. I'm kind of like losing the timeline here, losing the plot. But I did National Novel Writing Month again the next year. Like this was all just more chaotic life stuff, life changes, came back to Kentucky, worked in a bookstore, kept reading a whole bunch, and then did National Novel Writing Month again the next year. And that was the next manuscript I finished and actually like made it full length, young adult novel length, and kind of worked on revising it and stuff. I actually like stuck with it longer. And that was the first one that I ever tried querying. So querying is like to try to get a literary agent.
Okay.
And this is where we get into the like nuts and bolts of traditional publishing. So if you want to publish a book, you can either do it the traditional publishing way or self-publish. And I chose to go traditional publishing just because that was kind of what I researched and thought would be best for me, because people who self-publish are amazing and have to like hustle so hard to get their books out there and do all their own promo and marketing and stuff.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, which is so impressive and cool and a totally different kind of talent, I think, than it takes to just write books. Like, you have to also be good at the business side if you're going to self-publish. And people do it and just do well with it. But I was intimidated to start that, so I thought I would try the traditional way first. Which,
That's
if you want to
fair.
do that, typically, yeah, if you want to do that, typically you have to start with getting a literary agent. And so you write whatever it is you want to put out there in the world, whether it's a novel or short story collection or any number of things. Usually a novel or a nonfiction manuscript of some sort, or nonfiction proposal or whatever. And then you take it out to literary agents. And by take it out, I guess I mean like via email normally. And
You take it on your notebook, in your notebook,
Right.
and you put it on their desk.
Exactly. No, you travel to New York. No, a lot of these people are in New York, but literary agents are kind of all over, but a lot of publishing is centered in New York. And so a lot of agencies end up there too. But yeah, so I just started doing my research on that. And literary agents are like the gatekeepers to traditional publishing, in a way, because if you want to submit your book to be like considered by any of the major publishers, they usually only accept submissions from literary agents. So they don't just take anyone's books who wants to submit to them. You have to go through an agent who they like recognize their name, and they vetted you, that kind of thing. So the first step, querying literary agents. And so I did that with this book in, I guess, early 2019. I kind of started to try that after I'd revised a little and gotten some feedback from some friends who read it. And yeah, I felt like it was in a place where I was comfortable trying to do the querying thing with it, which is so funny. Just the more you learn, the more you like hate all the old stuff you've written. So now I'm like,
feel
wow,
that
that was.
way about episodes and paintings.
I'm sure.
I
Yeah.
hate everything I've ever painted, drawn, looked at with my eyeballs, everything I've ever spoken into a microphone. I hate it. I wish I could burn it all.
Yes, I could never go back and like listen to myself if I ever made a podcast, which I cannot imagine myself doing, because I would just cringe so hard at everything I said. Will I even listen to this? I don't know.
My favorite ones are, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, but
No, you're fine.
honestly, some of my favorite episodes are guest episodes where somebody else does most of the talking, or my Patreon episodes that you have to subscribe to.
Yeah.
And those are fun for me just because I've started drinking while I do them, so I don't even remember what I say by the time the episode's done. So then when I do listen to it to do any editing, that's the first time I've ever heard it.
That's amazing. I love that strategy.
It's a good one.
I can only imagine what kind of things I would get if I tried to write while drinking.
They're wild.
Yeah. So yes, I tried querying that, and yes, now realize like, wow, that was totally not ready for an agent, but whatever. Who knows? Also, like, I didn't actually try for very long querying. Like, there's no real set. You should stop after you've gotten this many rejections,
Right.
or like you should only take it out to this many agents or whatever. You can kind of just query a thing indefinitely until I guess you eventually run out of agents. But there's a bunch of different agencies out there and agents, and everyone's taste is different, and you never know like who's gonna see something in your book that no one else saw. And people always say that it only takes one yes. So querying can be just like totally different for everyone, and can last anywhere from a day to years, and more often is somewhere in the like months range.
Yeah.
With if you get an agent from a book, like often people will query the same thing for months. But I don't know. I don't want to say that's like average for sure, because I don't have a
In your
sense of the entire
experience.
writing community. Yeah. So I tried that one for honestly like a couple months maybe, because I like I had said before, was kind of real, I don't know, changed my mind a lot about what I wanted to work on and write. And I would kind of decide I was done with this story. I'm going to move on to the next one. But in this case, I had some, like, you send out a query, which is like a letter that says, hey, this is what my book's about. And you pitch it, like, which is kind of like the thing you read on the back of books that describes the plot and makes you interested in reading it. And you often give your credentials in there, which I had none. So it was like, I like to write and I have graduated college. And then, but if you had been published before in Forbes or something, you put that in there.
Right.
Whatever. So yeah, and then different agents have different requirements for what they want to look at initially in their query. So you attach the query letter, and then some agents will ask for like your first 10 pages or your first chapter or things like that. So I did that for, I don't know how many agents, but it wasn't all that many, because I was kind of dipping my toe in. And I got a couple of requests from that. So like often agents will read the query and then request to see the full manuscript. And then they can take however long they want to read and respond to that. Like whether they want the book or not, want to work with you or not, reading the full thing. So I got a couple of full requests, but then those didn't turn into anything. But by the time that I had gotten like all of the rejections back that I was going to get, and sometimes you'll just not hear anything. Sometimes it'll be agency will have a policy that's like, if you don't hear from us in like 3 months, assume that it's a rejection. And so by the time I'd kind of like closed out all those queries that I had sent, I was already fully on to the next thing. Like I had mentally switched already to the next book. So that book that summer was 2019, and that book was Love from Scratch, which is now my debut. And so that one felt different from anything that I had written before or any idea that had come to me before. Like the idea just kind of came fully formed. And it was, at the time, I was real into watching the Bon Appetit Test Kitchen on YouTube.
Okay, yeah.
Which has since kind of imploded with like racism reckoning, which, very valid. I'm glad that things were shaken up as they were, but man, it sucks that the Bon Appetit Test Kitchen had to be racist and now doesn't exist anymore, really, as it did. It does exist, but it is not the same as it was back then. But yeah, it was fun to watch. There were a lot of like different chefs who kind of have their specialties and make videos about like, we're going to make gourmet Pop-Tarts and we're going to go here and find the best pizza in New York and stuff like that. So that book was directly inspired by the Bon Appetit Test Kitchen, and it's set in like an online cooking channel like that has since kind of been, it's changed and doesn't really resemble Bon Appetit all that much anymore. But at first it was like low-key Bon Appetit fan fiction. And yeah, so that book is about 2 interns at an online cooking channel like that.
That's
and
really
the idea
cute.
just kind of came. Thank you. It's a romantic comedy too, so it's the 2 rival interns. Enemies as the title would imply, might fall in love. So yeah, so that summer I kind of furiously wrote that just like so quickly, and it just happened more, more quickly, and also just came together better and more completely than anything I'd written before, and just like felt totally different.
Yeah.
So that one I felt really good about, and I entered this pitch contest, which is like you pitch your book to a bunch of authors who have volunteered to be mentors, and some of the mentors who I pitched to picked my book. It's called Pitch Wars. Their website could explain it way better than I am right now, but
I'll link it in the notes.
Yeah.
So that way anybody can find it.
Yeah, I think it's at pitchwars.org. But
okay.
It is really cool. And my mentors were amazing and picked my book and to work with me. So over like 3 months, I think, we just did a bunch of revisions. They gave me some feedback and we did a bunch of revisions on the book, and they helped me just make it all clean and nice and pretty. And then there was a showcase at the end of Pitch Wars where a bunch of literary agents could read the pitches for all these books that they knew had now been through some intense revisions and would be like in nice shape, and they could request any that they were interested in. So I got my agent via that showcase ultimately, because the agents will request and then you query them like normal, but you say like, hey, you requested this from Pitch Wars, and it kind of bumps you up to the top of the line for
Cool.
the things they're going to read anyways. So that's how I connected with my agent, and she offered to work with me. That was spring 2020, right before everything went wild. So so I got my agent in like early March 2020, and then the pandemic really like hit the US, and it happened to coincide with my agent and I kind of getting my book ready to go out to editors. And so we sent it out to editors in April 2020. And it's been a really chaotic, weird time to try to get a book published for many reasons. But I was very fortunate that my agent connected me with the right editor for me. She liked my book. It was like the right person at the right time that came across her desk, and she offered on my book in the summer, July of 2020. So that was how my book deal came about.
I love it.
And that was for Love from Scratch.
I love that story. It feels very, I mean, obviously you put a lot of hard work in, and I'm not saying you didn't, but there was a lot of serendipity too. Like a lot of this was meant to happen. And I really love that for you. It does feel that way,
yeah. It's I feel people always like get on me when I say this, but I feel really lucky in a lot of ways, because publishing can be so challenging, and there's just so many obstacles you face to even get your foot in the door and get someone to finally connect with your story, and for it to get in front of the right eyes at the right time, kind of thing. And there is a lot of like talent and hard work and persistence involved. Yeah. And there's also an element of like good fortune, and that this happened to hit the right desk at the right time. And I feel just super, super fortunate that everything has happened for me as it has. And I allow that. I have worked very hard, but I have not worked nearly as long at it as some people do, and feel really, really fortunate to have found kind of my people in my publishing, my little like nook of publishing as early as I have. And I just like really like all the people I've gotten to work with so far, and am really excited to be here. So
I'm really excited for you.
Thank you. My publisher too, I didn't say, was Delacorte Press, which is part of Random House Children's Books, which is part of Penguin Random House. So it's all a big, like there's all these different tiers to it, but it's a Penguin Random House in short.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
Thank you.
No, it's kind of like an Elle Woods moment where you, and this is what I thought about when you first started talking about your story. I was like, because Elle Woods just decides one day, I'm going to go to Harvard. And everybody's like, you're going to do what? But then she puts all kinds of hard work into it.
Right.
But it just seems like a rash decision. And that's probably how it felt for you in the moment. Like, why am I suddenly deciding I want to become an author? This is not what I had ever planned on. This is crazy. But you put all the work and the effort and everything into it, and it has worked out for you because of that. And because it's where you're meant to be.
Yeah, it is a really, it's a really interesting like combination, I think, when you are a writer, or I feel like I know a lot of writers who are like this, and I'm definitely like this, where it takes such an odd mix of like, you're very, every writer I know is like insecure about their writing in some ways. And
Yeah.
like, I'm super insecure and super like, I don't know if this is actually any good or not about every single thing I write. And so there's an element of that mixed with, well, I must think it's good enough if I'm even trying to get it published. Like, there's some part of me that clearly has this weird confidence to even think that it's a possibility. And yeah, like even looking back not that long after starting this whole thing, I'm like, what even made me, I don't know, I can't even really get in my past self's head as to what even really made me think that I could do it. And I think in some ways it was a little bit of naivete, like didn't fully know how hard it could be, but once I was started, like once I realized I was way fully in it and committed to trying it, so I wasn't going to give up then. But yeah, it's a strange business, but in short, yeah, it is definitely a thing that you can put your mind to and work super hard and do all the research on, you know, agents and querying and things like that, and just read super widely in the genres and age groups you want to write for and see what's getting published right now in those areas. And yeah, it can be done.
I'm so glad that you are an example of the fact that it can be done. Because I
Thank
just
you.
think that's so important, and you're a perfect person to be that example, I think.
Oh,
You're just, you're humble, but you do have the confidence that your hard work is worth it. And I think that's really important.
thank you. It is definitely an ongoing journey where some days I will be like, yes, this book is great. I am so proud of it. Can't wait for people to read it. And other days I'm like, I want to hide under a rock when my book comes out and never hear what anyone thinks of it because they're all going to hate it.
I understand that.
But yeah, I think anyone in a creative field gets that. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of, yeah, mix of confidence and insecurity that comes with putting any bit of yourself and your hard work and creativity out in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say is it's a part of yourself because I think anything you create is a part of yourself in one way or another.
Yeah, for sure.
And I relate very much, like I said, with the podcast. It has been just a really interesting exercise of my insecurities and my confidence battling each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, been really interesting. And it's something that even recently I'm coming to this point where I'm like, why don't I say, like, when you asked me earlier before we started recording, you were like, what are you doing now? Are you working from home? I said, this is my job right now. And that is a very new thing. Like, me
Yeah.
saying that is very new. And it's something that I very recently realized, like, if I want this to be my job, I have to say it's my job,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
it is hard to start getting that mindset too of something like we think of creative pursuits and like arts and things like that as hobbies way more than we think of them as careers, I guess, or it seems like that can be a career for other people, but not for me. And so it's very hard to like get yourself in the mindset of this is work, this is a thing that I can do and that I do work very hard at, and so I should treat it like it's work and like be proud of my work and things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said that really beautifully. Has there been something that has helped you come to that realization, or has it just been like along your journey you've realized, like, I put a lot of work into this. I deserve
Yeah.
to be proud of it.
I think it is an ongoing process. Something that occurred to me too that I didn't say in my whole story of getting to the book deal point is that, yeah, I wasn't initially planning on being a full-time author. Like that's kind of an end game goal for a lot of people. I think anyone who writes, well, I don't know. I don't want to say that for everyone, because there are a lot of people who love their day jobs that are not having to do with writing and want to be able to do both and successfully do both, which is amazing. But I always thought, like, yeah, maybe years and years into the future, if I do really well, I can make it a full-time thing. And it's definitely like very challenging to make a living at. Even if you sell books to a publisher, there's just all kinds of complicated financial things that go with it, that you get an advance payment, but then you don't get royalties usually until you earn out your advance. And so you have to sell a certain number of copies to even get to the point of earning royalties. And so
I had wondered about that.
Yeah. So so the advance can just vary super widely, and that's like the money you're getting if you like turn in the book on time and all that, no matter what. And that's the money you can depend on. But besides that, you have no idea, like, if you'll get royalties on this thing, if it'll earn out eventually, or if, it's hard to like plan your financial future in a career where like you sell a book at a time, basically. Or sometimes you get a deal for like 2 or 3 books, but you don't know what you're going to do past that. And so I kind of stumbled into doing it though, because with the pandemic. So pre-pandemic, I worked at the public library. After the bookseller job, I was unemployed for a while, and then I got a job at the library, and it was like the best job ever. I loved it so much. I was a library assistant.
Yeah, you seem to love that a lot.
Yeah, it was just super great, really like rewarding, hard work, good work, great people. And yeah, when the pandemic hit, the libraries closed down for a while, and we were kind of starting to get back into doing like curbside services and stuff a little bit in the summer. And around that time, the library system where I am made the tough call to have to lay off all of their part-time employees. And so that included me. And so actually it was the weirdest like sequence of events. It was the same week in July where on a Wednesday I found out I was laid off because of the pandemic. And on the Friday I found out that my editor had offered on my book. So the layoff and the book deal happened in the same week. So it was kind of like I was unemployed, but I sold a book. So I guess I'm a full-time author now.
Yeah.
And also it wasn't always going to be that way. I was kind of like, I was on unemployment for a while and stuff, and thinking about what would my next thing be, because it was not going to be enough to just live off the first book advance and things like that. But then I sold my second book, and just starting to like gain momentum and looking forward and talking with my partner and everything, it became clear that we were going to be able to make that work for now. So I feel really super, super fortunate. Like, that is definitely a huge privilege to be in a place where I have like enough savings, and together with me and my partner, we make enough to make it work for now, that I can keep writing full time and not have to go do anything else yet, while trying to, get this author career off the ground still. So so this is what I'm doing for now, but it is definitely not something that I recommend like jumping into lightly, or thinking that it would be super easy to write a book, sell your first book, then suddenly you can be a full-time author.
Right.
That is not the normal thing to do, or perhaps the recommended thing to do, but it is working for us right now, and I will see how it goes into the future. But
we will update.
I mean, do what?
I said we will update in the future.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I'm excited about continuing to do this for now, and kind of keep hopefully keep the momentum going while I'm like feeling really good and having lots of ideas, and I like have a lot of creative fuel right now. I feel like that I want to just see what I can possibly do with this time while I'm young and don't have kids, and I only have to, be able to support myself and my partner together with our combined income. So
Yeah.
yeah, I am definitely in a place of privilege to be able to do that, and do not take that for granted.
Well, I love that that's your look out whatever outlook. Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh. I love that that's your outlook on it.
I knew where you were going.
Thank you. The idea of like, I can do this right now. I know that this is sustainable for me right now. We'll see how it goes in the future, but I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity while I have it. I think that's a really great outlook and a really awesome way to approach life. I think that a lot of people kind of underestimate that. They want stability, like strong stability in the long term, or like what they perceive at least to be strong stability, rather than taking advantage of incredible experiences in the now. And that perceived stability doesn't always work out. And then they look back and they wish that they had taken that opportunity. That was more fun, maybe.
Yeah, I think I just, I know I've been very lucky and very just like fortunate in the way, well, in multiple ways. So like in the more abstract sense that I was raised by parents who were just always emphasizing like, do what you love, find your passion, do that, as opposed to ever like trying to push me into any particular career path or anything. So I kind of always had the really just gung-ho, I'm gonna go after whatever I want, blah blah blah, which I know like not every kid is raised with. So I felt super lucky with that, but then also just being like middle class white person and having that privilege that comes with that, and knowing that like my family is stable financially and okay, and that I have like a safety net that not everyone has. And so with those kind of things, and like I'm totally good supporting myself right now, but like being able to know that I would be okay if everything absolutely failed, I can go live in my parents' house kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I mean, having that kind of security and privilege and just support that I have I'm in a position to take advantage of that and get to do the things I love. And yeah, I am grateful that I can do that and don't want to squander that chance when a lot of people don't get that chance, I guess, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely does. I think that's a really important way to look at it.
Thank you. It has come from many, many long talks and weird turns of events in life so far, but yeah, I'm happy to be in the place I am now, and yeah, just feel really, really fortunate.
Well, I'm really happy for you, and I'm really happy to get to see all of this like come together for you. Sometimes I think that the weirdest, sometimes roughest, like situations can bring us to exactly where we're meant to be. And we're like, universe, like you could have done this way easier. You could have just told me. But it shapes us into who we're meant to be for that purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there have been a lot of just really challenging things in the like 5 years of my life between like graduating college and now have been some of the most difficult years ever, with just all kinds of stuff that I
Relatable.
just hinted at with, then weird turns of events where we moved across the country and back and stuff like that. Just a lot of the biggest challenges I've ever faced have like happened in the last 5 years at the same time that the most amazing things have happened with finding this career path and stuff like that. And yeah, it is, I feel like I sound like I don't know, just on something, but it's wild how it all comes together, and
No, that's how I
life
sound
just
all the time.
finds a way. Yeah, but yeah, there really does seem to be kind of, some of the most awesome, exciting things come at the end of huge challenges and losses and things like that. So,
Yeah.
so far, gosh, knock on wood. But yeah, I'm really in a good place now, and excited to see what comes next.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Why don't you let the listeners know where they can find you, like where they can pre-order your book, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the Kaitlyn Hill, THE, just the Kaitlyn Hill, the Kaitlyn Hill. And yeah, that funny story there. Just Kaitlyn Hill was not available anywhere, so I have to sound really obnoxious and like I think I am the only Kaitlyn Hill out there. But that's me on Twitter and Instagram, and thekaitlynhill.com for consistency. So
I love that.
And by the time this comes out, my book will be up for pre-order everywhere that you can buy books. So like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, whatever. It's Love from Scratch. And I'll also have links to that on all my social media and website. And it comes out April 5th, 2022. But you can pre-order it now, and it will show up on your door the week of publication, just like a wonderful present to your future self from your past self.
I love that. It's like when it's margarita night and you go home and you're like, that's on sale, and I've been looking at it for a while. And then it just shows up in the mail the next week.
Like,
and
that was so nice of me.
Yes. That's how I got to grad school. Margarita night. I applied, and next thing you know, I was there.
Something tells me it was not on sale when you applied.
It was not on sale. Oh, no. No, thank you so much. I will make sure I'm going to put your website and all of those links, as well as the pre-order link and all of that in the blog post for today's episode, so that way everybody can find it super easily.
Yay.
And
thank you.
You're so welcome. And that will be at I'veBeenThinkingPod.com. Consistency. And y'all can find that there. You can also find a link to the Patreon there if you'd like to become a subscriber, listen to me rant, get all kinds of extra bonus content there. And then also make sure that y'all follow along wherever you listen, subscribe, follow whatever, and follow along on Instagram at I've Been Thinking Pod. That's where you get a lot of updates on the show. So thank you again, Kaitlyn, so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was delightful, and
I'm so glad.
Yeah, just so good to reconnect.
Yeah, super good to reconnect. I hope everyone listening loved this episode, because I did. I thought it was delightful too. And I will talk at y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist, and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning. where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
Wake up at Holiday Inn Express to a can't-miss breakfast that's free with every stay. Count on all the hot, fresh coffee you need and an incredible breakfast buffet that has something for everyone, like eggs, cinnamon rolls, and even hot, fresh pancakes with all the toppings you crave. Next time, do yourself a favor and stay at a Holiday Inn Express with a can't-miss breakfast that's free with every stay. So, when you wake up at Holiday Inn Express, you'll wake up happy, a part of IHG Hotels and Resorts.